The discussion about center of mass of a system of particles today. Okay, so we had seen that we can divide the system of particles into two categories: discrete particle systems and continuous distribution of mass. Okay. So here what happens, the total mass of the system is the summation of the mass of the individual particles m1, m2, m3, etc. So individual particles which are located at independent positions. And in continuous mass distribution, we have the total mass of a system M that is distributed continuously within some kind of a body or some kind of a shape. Or volume, etc., like that. Okay. So next thing was the understanding of the center of mass. So center of mass is the symmetry point of the mass distribution. Okay. So for example, we had seen that for a continuous system of particles, yeah, so we had seen that rather for a discrete system of particles, we had seen that, for example, if there are two particles M1 and M2 located on a two-dimensional plane at points x1, y1 and x2, y2, then the position of the center of mass is somewhere in the line joining the two of them, such that it divides that line in a ratio which is inverse of the mass ratios. So if our two particles are located, let's say here and here, at positions x1, y1 and x2, y2, then the center of mass is a point on this line joining them, such that it divides this line in a ratio. It divides this in the ratio which is inverse of the mass ratio. So from that we had seen the formula for the center of mass's position becomes that the x coordinate of the center of mass is m1 x1 plus m2 x2 divided by m1 plus m2. The y coordinate of the center of mass is m1 y1 plus m2 y2 upon m1 plus m2. Okay. So this is a brief recap of the ideas that some of the ideas that we had learned in the last lecture. So just go through this section once and make sure you understood these things properly so that we can continue ahead from this point. Okay, now we will generalize this formula further. So now let's understand the next thing, which is the general formula for center of mass of a n particle system. Okay, in 3 dimensions. So let's say our particles are scattered over 3-dimensional space and we want to find the position of the center of mass. So in our rectangular 3-dimensional coordinate frame, we have particles M1, M2, M3, M4, etc. all distributed at positions like this. So each particle has a specified X, Y, and Z coordinate. So the center of mass will be some designated point, which is the symmetry point of this system as far as mass distribution is concerned. So its center of mass will be defined as the X coordinate will be given by summation M into X divided by summation M. Likewise, the Y coordinate will be given by summation M into Y divided by summation M. And we just have to extend this formula to the Z coordinate now. So this becomes the general formula. So for example, we have a system of 4 particles M1 equal to, let's say, 1 kg at the origin, M2 equal to 2 kilograms at this type of coordinate, the third particle of 1 kg again at, and the fourth one having a mass of again 1 kg but located at 0 comma 0 comma 2. Okay. So we have to find the coordinates of the center of mass for this system of four particles. Okay, so these coordinates are given in centimeters, suppose. You just note down this general formula and then apply it to work out this question quickly, people. Yeah, centimeters are the the dimensions of the coordinates, na beta. So this 0 comma 1 comma 0, that is 1 centimeter on the x-axis. Yeah, people, let's work this out quickly. So as you can see that the x coordinate of the center of mass will be m1 x1 plus m2 x2 like this up to the fourth particle m4 x4 divided by the sum of the particles masses. So this will just become 0 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 divided by 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1. So that is how much? 2 by 5 or 0.4 centimeters. This is the x coordinate of the center of mass. Yes, you have got this correct, Bhargav. Okay. Similarly, the y coordinate of the center of mass. Don't forget to add the masses in the denominator, na people. Some of you have made that mistake while giving me the answer. You have done the summation of m into position in the numerator, but you have forgotten to add the masses in the denominator. That's why you're getting the wrong result. Okay. So when we do this calculation, you can see this will be 0, this will be 2 into 1. So that's again 2. This will be 0 again, this will be 0 again, and this will again be 5. Okay. You can see the numerator is in kilograms centimeters. The denominator is in kilograms. So that's why we get the final answer in centimeters. And similarly, the z coordinate also when we calculate summation mz divided by summation m, we'll get something similar, I think. Okay. So the center of mass's position is this much. Bhargav, just make sure you got the third part also correct. The z coordinate. Might have taken this as 4 by mistake, so just check.
Yes, sir.
It's all right now, the values now?
Yes, sir. I taken it as 4 mistakenly.
Okay, okay. Okay, so this is the very simple application of this formula. Not necessarily, it doesn't always have to be positive because we could also have a situation, Harshita, where some of the particles are kept in the negative side. So that will bring the center of mass to the negative position. So I'll just give you a simple example. Suppose we have a two particle system with one particle of mass 4 kgs kept at the position minus 1 comma 0 comma 0, and the second particle of mass 1 kg but kept at the position, let's say 1 comma minus 1 comma 0. Okay, and it's just a two particle system. So I want to find the center of mass of this. So you can see xcm will become m1 x1 plus m2 x2 divided by m1 plus m2. So this time this will be a negative quantity. It will be 4 into minus 1 plus 1 into plus 1 divided by 4 plus 1. So it's minus 4 plus 1, so that's minus 3. So minus 3 by 5 or minus 0.6. Similarly, the y coordinate of the center of mass. Okay, so it all really depends on the values. So this is 4 into 0 plus 1 into minus 1 divided by 5. So that is minus 1 by 5 or minus 0.2. And similarly, you'll see the z coordinate will come out to be 0. So this system will have a center of mass at minus 0.6 comma minus 0.2 comma 0. Okay. So any algebraic sign is possible. It really depends on where the particles are located. Okay. Now we can always have some questions which are based on this concept but with little bit more of application involved. So for example, we could have a question given to us like this, that we have a square cardboard sheet, okay, and say along with that we also have a rectangular cardboard sheet like this. So these are two cardboard sheets made of the same uniform material. Okay. Now this one is square, so it is of dimension. So let's say this dimension, this dimension, they are given to us as 2 meters by 2 meters. Okay. Then this dimension is 4 meters. This dimension is 2 meters. Okay. And this distance here, this is also 2 meters. So now, considering this as our x-axis and this as our y-axis, so this corner here is our origin. We have to find the system center of mass. Okay, so we have a rectangular sheet A like this and a square sheet B like this, placed on the xy plane. They are made of the same uniform material. Now we have to find the system's center of mass. We have to locate the whole system's center of mass. So try to think what kind of concept we can apply to simplify this problem here. So we can replace the individual sheets with equivalent particles at their center of mass. Okay, so I'll just give you a hint. We can understand like this, that for the sheet B, the center of mass is at the coordinate this is the center of mass of B. Okay. And similarly, here is the center of mass of E. Okay. So this will be half this length, 2, and this is already 2. So this will be 4 meters. And the y coordinate of A's center of mass will be 2 plus 2 plus half of this 1. So that will be 5 meters. Okay. So if we have a square sheet like this, the center of mass is at the point where the diagonals intersect or the perpendicular bisectors intersect. Using that concept, you can see. So please verify and try and understand that these how we've got. Okay. So this is in
Sir,
meters. Yeah.
sir, can you explain again?
देखो जो स्क्वायर शीट बी है उसका सेंटर ऑफ मास कहाँ पे होगा? अपने सेंट्रॉइड पे होगा, करेक्ट बेटा?
Yes, sir, because it is geometrical.
हाँ, it's a geometrical shape and more importantly because it's saying that it's a uniform material, ना? So the sheet has uniform mass per unit area, ना? So it will be at the centroid of the square. ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
तो अभी सेंट्रॉइड का कोऑर्डिनेट्स क्या होगा? देखो ये वाला जो स्क्वायर है बी है, दिस कॉर्नर इज एट द ओरिजिन, राइट? एंड दिस साइड इज 2 ऑन द एक्स एक्सिस, दिस साइड इज 2 ऑन द वाई एक्सिस. So where the center of mass will be located? At half this length and half this length. So this should be 1 meter, right?
Yes, sir.
And this should be 1 meter. So like that. Okay. Now similarly, see what I've done over here. So उसके हिसाब से with respect to this corner point, what will be this distance? With respect to this corner point, this distance should be half of this.
Yes,
This
sir.
should be
2
2,
plus 2.
correct? And this should be 1. So now with respect to my origin here, you're seeing the center of mass's coordinates is becoming this, correct?
Yes, sir, understood.
Understood now? Okay. Now next thing what we have to do, we have to do a comparison of their masses. Now mass of B will be some constant multiplied by its area. This constant is mass per unit area. Okay. Or that area is actually 2 meters square. Okay. This is the area. But similarly, mass of A, now it will be the same constant because it is made of same material. But what about the area? The area for A is becoming 4 meters into 2 meters. So you can see that mass of A is 2 times mass of B because the area of A is double compared to the area of B. So mass is proportional to area because they are made of same material. So the mass of the rectangular one, which is double in area, should also be double of the mass of the square one. Okay. So next what we can do, we can just make another system where we replace these shapes with particles. So we replace A with a particle here of mass, or rather B here with a particle here of mass MB, but located at 1, 1. And we replace A with a particle of mass MA, but its coordinates are how much? Coordinates are 4, 5. So now the whole system center of mass will be somewhere here. Somewhere here. So that's maybe somewhere here. So we want to find its coordinates. Okay. So XCM will be MAXA plus MBXB divided by MA plus MB. So let's take MB as M. So MA becomes 2M. Okay. So this becomes 2M into 4 plus M into 1 divided by 2M plus M. So that becomes how much now? 8 plus 1, 9, right? Divided by 3. So that becomes 3. Similarly, y coordinate of the center of mass. So 2m into 5 plus m into again 1 divided by 3m. So this time that is becoming 11 by 3. Or this is in meters. Don't confuse the meters with the mass m. So the position of the center of mass becomes 3 comma 11 by 3. So this is the most basic level of question you can expect at JEE mains level involving position of center of mass. Okay. So actually this is just the beginning of the chapter. We will see that there are a lot many more things than just calculating position of center of mass. But in our applications of mechanics, it is important to be able to find out the position of the center of mass for doing further calculations. So it's like one of the fundamental things we should know how to do with the system is locate the position of the center of mass. And this is how we do it.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, on that right hand side, did you write that C for that mass per unit area for the two?
Yeah, C is mass per unit area. Let's use a different term so that we don't confuse it. Let's use a term like sigma. Generally, we use the symbol sigma for mass per unit area. So sigma is a constant, which is the mass per unit area, and it's the same for both of them. Why? Because they are made of the same material. So it's mass per unit area, which is constant. Okay, so hope this is clear, people.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now next we move on to center of mass of a continuous mass distribution. So we've seen that if the continuous distribution is uniform and the shape is some well-known geometry like the square lamina that we just discussed, or the rectangular lamina, or something like a disc or some disc or sphere or cylinder, or any well-known geometrical shape, then we don't need to do any calculation. The center of mass is just the centroid, the geometrical centroid. But if it is not a well-known figure, then how do we calculate the center of mass? So let's understand that next. So center of mass of a continuous mass distribution. So just for the sake of completeness in our notes, we will see the first type of situation as a geometrical shape with uniform distribution of mass. Okay. A geometrical type of shape with uniformly distributed mass. This will always have the center of mass at the centroid. Okay. So for example of that is if we have a thin uniform rod, and obviously center of mass is the midpoint. Okay. If we have, let's say, an equilateral triangle shaped lamina, then the centroid will be the center of mass. So it will be the position where the angular bisectors, which are the same thing as the medians, which are the same thing as the perpendicular bisectors of the sides. So equilateral triangle has this unique feature that median is the same thing as altitude, is the same thing as perpendicular bisector. Or for example, if we have any sort of cuboid, then the center of mass will be the position at which the diagonals intersect. What we call the body diagonals. So solid cuboid of uniform density. So this is the first kind of case where we don't really have to do any further calculation. Just for the sake of completeness, you can note this down. But now the part which will be really important for us will be that if we don't know the position of the centroid, because it's not a regular geometrical shape, then how do we locate the center of mass? So that is where the application of integration comes in.
So now we can copy this.
Yeah, we can copy this. Just make a quick note of it. Okay, so next let us see.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, just go. Can you just scroll up for a moment?
yeah.
Done, sir.
Okay. Now next we'll see center of mass by application of definite integration. Basically application of calculus. So this is going to be one of the important methods of application of calculus, through which we are not only going to learn about position of center of mass, but in general learn about the techniques used in definite integration. Okay. So the general method here is that if we have some kind of a continuous distribution of mass m, okay, and we have defined some kind of a coordinate frame. So just imagine this to be like a three-dimensional body, like a rock or something. Okay, so it's three-dimensional shape. Now, with respect to my origin, I want to define the position of the center of mass. Okay. Before this, I will go back for a moment to the n particle system. Just one additional thing we'll see over there: how to convert the formula for coordinates into vector algebra. Okay, so we will see this formula, this summation formula that we have over here. We will just understand this set of formulae in vector notation. So just aside from this, let's understand. In vector notation, okay, we write the position x, y, z of a point as position vector, which you have seen in kinematics also, for example, xi cap plus yj cap plus zk cap. Okay, so therefore, for n particle system, we have m1 located at position vector r1, which is x1 I cap plus y1 j cap plus z1 k cap. M2 located at position vector R2, which is similarly like that x2 I cap plus y2 j cap plus z2 k cap. So like that, if we have up to n particles located at positions which are given by vector position R1 to vector position Rn, where the vectors are related to the individual coordinates by this xi cap plus yj cap plus zk cap. Okay. Then for this system, the center of mass is at RCM, which is x coordinate of center of mass plus y coordinate of center of mass plus z coordinate of center of mass. Okay. Now, if you just compare with the equation that you see on the left hand side, the boxed equation, this one over here, if you compare this equation with this one, you can see that this relation will therefore be written as summation m into r divided by summation m. Okay. So the three individual equations that we have written on the left hand side for the individual coordinates x, y, z can be converted into a one vector relation for the vector position, which is given by the vector r, like this. So this becomes the vector position of center of mass for an n particle system. Okay. So this is something that we're going to use a lot when we are doing problems practically. So just make sure you understand this. It's the same thing as the formula for the individual coordinates that we have seen earlier. But instead of writing the position in terms of individual coordinates x, y, z, now we are writing it in terms of the position vector r, which is x I cap plus y j cap plus z k cap. Okay. So it's just instead of three individual coordinate equations, we convert it into one vector relation.
Sir, can you pull up?
Yeah, what was that? Sorry, Vita? Finish
Sir,
this
can
now.
you show that once?
Acha, that vector relation. Okay. So in kinematics, you know how position vector of a particle is written, right? If its coordinates are x, y, z, then we represent its position by the vector joining it with the origin. Na? So that is x I cap plus y j cap plus z k cap. So like that, the position of the center of mass is now given by this vector. So basically, with respect to our coordinate system, if
Done, sir.
if we have a particle here, then this vector from O to P, this is what is called its position vector. So the relationship between the position vector and the coordinates of the particle are this. So that way the position vector of the center of mass is then given by this formula. Right, so done now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's come back to our continuous mass distribution, which is not of some geometrical shape that is known to us. So we can't directly find the centroid. So then what we do is we use calculus. So instead of having individual particles, we have a continuous distribution of mass. So imagine we have cut this into a small differential particle dm. So dm is a differential mass element. So that means basically it is a tiny fraction. It's a very, very small fraction or small part of the total mass. Okay. So that can be treated like a particle. So because it's a differential element, we can treat it like a particle. So Okay, and this particle is at the position vector, let's say r, like this, at the position x I cap plus y j cap plus z k cap. Okay, so therefore the center of mass of this whole system now, that is, let us say, sitting somewhere over here. So that now has a position vector, which is this. So remember, in n particle system, what was the position vector? It was summation m into r divided by summation m. So here what happens is that I is actually dm. It's a differential particle. It's a differential element. So that means what happens? Therefore, summation becomes integration. Okay, so you replace the summation sign with the integration sign. So position vector of the center of mass becomes integration RdL divided by the total mass. Okay. Or we can write this as three individual equations. X coordinate is integration x dm divided by total mass. Y coordinate is integration y dm divided by total mass, and z coordinate is similarly integration z dm divided by total mass. Okay, so because our individual particles are differential particles of mass dm, so we are summing up over differential particles which are infinite in number. Okay, so basically because these are differential or very, very small elements, so basically the total mass consists of infinite number of such elements summed up. Okay, so m is integration dm. Instead of summation, it becomes an integration because we are summing up a differential quantity or a very, very small quantity.
Sir,
Yes,
so sir, you have just replaced that summation sign with an integration sign.
with
So
an
as to
integration.
okay.
Exactly. But that comes from the definition of area under the curve. Na?
Yes, sir.
In indefinite integral, na, area under the curve में हम क्या करते हैं? We take those vertical strips and we are, instead of calculating the summation of the areas, as the strip becomes differential in thickness, that summation is converted into an integration. So the same kind of step we are doing over here.
Yes, sir. So as to get an exact value.
Yes. Okay, so I will just talk about this a little bit more in a minute. The how to convert a summation into an integration. When we are summing up differential quantities, the summation actually becomes an integration. We'll discuss a little bit more about that. But first, just make sure you are clear with this formula for the position vector of center of mass by use of integration, or these three equivalent formulae, which are the individual x, y, and z coordinates of the center of mass.
Sir, in this application, we will consider only one particle.
नहीं देखो, वो जो पार्टिकल है जिसका मैंने डायग्राम बनाया डीएम, that is a single particle, but the moment I'm integrating this now over the entire mass, that means I'm actually doing the summation of this RDM for all the particles that consist of this body. Understanding, na?
Yes,
So this
sir.
integration RDM means we are not only taking this particle DM alone, but the one next to it, the one next to it, and like that, from point to point, all the particles that are within this body, we are considering that in that summation. So because it is a summation over infinite number of such differential particles, so that summation converts into an integration. Okay,
Okay.
somewhat clear now?
Yes, sir.
So, sir,
Yes.
sir, suppose if you have a stone, then the differentiate particle will be a dust only.
Yes, exactly. You can think of it like that.
That which
Like,
which mass would be
I mean,
DM
see,
then.
that is up to our imagination. We can even go down to molecular level and say that each DM is a molecule, or it is a submolecular atom, it is a subatomic particle. कुछ भी हम सोच सकते हैं. Because ultimately, see, this is, मतलब this is imagination, ना? That it's infinitely small. That DM, the meaning of a differential term means it's infinitesimal. That means it's infinitely small, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Like in calculus, when we have a curve for a graph y is equal to fx, then उसमें dx क्या होता है? It is a differential, this thing, ना? Differential section on the x-axis. So dx is basically what? Delta x, but delta x tending to 0. So that means it's so small that it should be tending to 0, no? So same thing over here. dm is such a small particle that its mass is literally tending to 0. So it is left to our imagination how small we want to make it. Okay. So let's first explore this idea a little bit more. Integration as the limit of sum. Actually, definite integration. As understand this term. Yeah, Bhargav, I'll scroll up. Okay, finish, Bhargav.
Yes, sir. Done.
Okay. So let's first discuss a little bit more as about definite integration as the limit of a sum. So for example, we have a graph of a function y is equal to fx. So let's say this curve here represents the function y is equal to fx. Now we want to calculate the area subtended by this curve between x1 and x2. We want to calculate this area. So one way would be that we could divide this into individual strips at individual points like this. So we had a very large number, but still finite number of strips like this. Okay, so in fact, instead of x1 and x2, let's take the boundary points as A and B. And now between them, we are inserting these points x1, x2 like this. So xi like this. Okay. So such that the gap between each of these is delta x. So this gap here is delta x. This gap here is delta x. Okay. Now this strip that you see, the height of this strip is basically yi, where yi is the value of the function at xi. So the area of the strip, the one which I've shaded, this one, let's say delta E, that is how much? The height multiplied by the thickness. So it is f of xi into delta x. That is the area of that strip. Let's say it's the ith strip. So the total area E, that is nothing but summation of the areas of all these strips. Okay. I going in this case from 0 to n minus 1, because I've taken x naught as E, x1 as E plus delta x, x2 as E plus 2 delta x, and like this. Like this. Anyways, okay, so that is equal to summation of f of xi into delta x from I equal to 0 to n minus 1. So this is how I can calculate the area by summation. Okay. This is the calculation of the area A by summation method. Of the areas of strips of thickness delta x. Okay, but you'll notice one thing, that in each calculation I'm doing a bit of approximation, because I'm treating the strips like rectangles, but they are not exactly rectangles. You can see that. There
Yes,
is a bit
sir.
of approximation involved, right? So what we can understand is that the smaller the value of delta x, okay, the more accurate my calculation will be. So now what happens is, if we make delta x tending to 0, so that means delta x becomes dx. Okay. Then in other words, n tends to infinity. because delta x is tending to 0. So we have divided the length x equal to a to x equal to b into infinite number of, okay, sections dx, okay, of thickness tending to 0. So dx is nothing but a delta x tending to 0. So in that case, what happens? So the integration replaces the summation in that case. So this summation of fxi delta x, okay, on this summation, when we put the limit that delta x is tending to 0, this becomes integration of fx from x equal to a to x equal to b. Because here, so this is how we convert a summation into an integration.
Because of that delta x is getting to 0.
Yes, yes. So the summation sign converts into an integration. Okay, in 12th mathematics also you will learn about this, that we can calculate the summation by an infinite series if I make delta x tending to 0. So algebraically, if I write out that series, the sum of that infinite series is the same thing as the definite integration. So you will learn another method of doing definite integration as the sum of a series, sum of an infinite series. But anyhow, that's going a bit further ahead in maths. Right now, you can just understand the meaning of definite integration as this. It calculates the accurate area under the curve, because what we are doing is we are actually cutting it into strips like that and making the thickness of the strips tending to 0 by cutting the number of points up to infinity. Now that section between A and B in the diagram, I'm now slicing it into infinite number of points, x1, x2, x3 like this. So the thickness of each of these strips is tending to 0. So that's why my calculation of area is becoming 100% accurate, and the summation is converting into an integration. So this step over here, the summation is converted into an integration when I make my delta x tend to 0, or I make n tend to infinity. That is the number of points I'm cutting in between. I'm tending to making that tend to infinite number of points. So the thickness of each strip is tending to 0.
Sir, means integration is more accurate than summation.
Yes, absolutely. Integration is the most accurate method. It gives us 100% accuracy. So that is why, for example, you can use integration to prove simple formulas like area of a circle is pi r square, okay, or volume of a this thing of a sphere is 4 by 3 pi r cube, or surface area is 4 pi r square. All these things can be proved by integration. Circumference is 2 pi r, that can also be proved by integration. So we will be seeing some of these interesting applications of integration in center of mass chapter. So that's why this is very important, because it's not just about calculation of center of mass, but it's about learning application of integration, application of definite integration. Okay. So it's going to be something very important for our general knowledge in physics, our general application of calculus, that type of knowledge in physics.
Sir, could you please zoom out a little bit?
Yeah. I try to zoom out as much as I can, as long as the letters are clear to you. Yeah, this is clear now.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
sir.
it-
Okay. So just go through this section once. Then, as we discuss the applications with center of mass, it will become more clear. Okay. Right now, you can just think of it like a definition that this is how we actually carry out this calculation of area as the limit of a sum. But the limit is that delta x is tending to 0. Just note this down. Okay, so let's now understand this in context of center of mass. So as an example, suppose I have a thin rod, okay, made of material with variable density, okay, such that the mass per unit length, which we will call the symbol lambda. So mass per unit length is in kilograms per meter or grams per centimeter. Okay, varies with the x coordinate as lambda is equal to lambda naught 1 plus x by l, okay, where lambda naught is a constant and l is the length of the rod. So first I'll make a diagram, then it will become clear what's happening here. So we have a thin rod and let's say it's placed along the x-axis. The rod is placed just about on the x-axis, let's say. But the mass per unit length of the rod is varying. This is the length of the rod. And it's not having uniform densities. Density is varying such that at any point inside the rod, which is at a distance x, The mass per unit length is given by this formula. So you can see that it is given to us that lambda mass per unit length varies linearly with x such that at x equal to 0, the linear mass density is lambda naught. But at x equal to L, the other end of the rod, lambda's value is 2 lambda naught. So the mass per unit length varies like this with position. So you can see that the right half of the rod is heavier than the left half of the rod. So basically the rod gets heavier to the right. So we have to find the position of its center of mass. Okay. So definitely we understand that we expect that x position of the center of mass should be greater than L by 2 because it's heavier on the right. But the question is where exactly it is. So to find out that, now we have to use integration. We have to see the application of definite integration.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, what did you write for that delta naught? Is that constant?
lambda naught is a constant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it is a constant. Okay, so it is some constant in some value in grams per centimeter or something. Okay, and L is the length of the rod, let's say in centimeters.
Sir, that formula is given only, no?
That's given in the question. Okay, so this is an example where this particular rod has this, uh, this property. For example, this rod could be made of an alloy of two metals. One is heavier than the other, and the mixture of the percentage mixture of the alloy is different at different locations. So as you go down the x-axis, the heavier metal is there in a higher percentage compared to the lighter metal. So that's how the mass per unit length is increasing. It's clear, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we are going to look at the application of integration, how we'll do that. So looking at a somewhat magnified diagram of the rod. Now since our this thing, our, our linear mass density or mass per unit length varies with the x coordinate. Okay. So in this language, this is called linear mass density. We just use this term for mass per unit length. Okay. Lambda, it is varies with x. Okay, therefore, we should take our differential element. Okay. The differential mass element should be a differential section dx of the rod. So that means at some distance x, okay, I will slice a very thin section of the rod whose own thickness, this thickness will become dx. Okay. So this differential section should have mass dm. Okay. So this mass dm should be mass per unit length into the thickness of that section. So mass per unit length at that point is how much? It is lambda naught into 1 plus x by L dx. So this whole expression is the mass dm of that differential element. The thin section dx of the rod. Its mass is given by this formula now. Okay. So now, how will I find the x coordinate of the center of mass? I will just substitute in the formula.
Sir, how the dm equals to lambda dx came?
How that dm, okay, see, lambda is what? Mass per unit length. Okay, and dm is what? It is the mass of a section of length, how much? Dx, no? So that should be mass per unit length into dx. Got it?
Yes, sir.
It's like delta m by delta L is lambda, no? So delta m is lambda delta L, but only here this is very small, so we take it as dx. So this becomes very small, so this becomes dm. Because lambda is variable. So whenever lambda is variable, we cannot take delta L, we have to take dl or dx. We have to take a differential element. So you can see that within the section, your x coordinate is changing from x to x plus dx. So it's a very small change. So we can take the linear mass density to be constant within that small dx. So now next step, we will just substitute this over here. So this becomes integration of x into dm, which is lambda naught 1 plus x by L dx. Starting from one end of the rod, that is x equal to 0, to the other end of the rod, that is x equal to L, divided by integration of dm, because I don't know the total mass. So I have to actually integrate to find out the total mass. Again, going from x equal to 0 to x equal to L. So this integration now has to be carried out, both in the numerator and denominator. Okay, so just make sure you're clear up to this step. So here we have just substituted the dm from above in both the integrals, numerator as well as denominator. So instead of individual particles kept on the x-axis and doing summation m into x divided by summation m, we have differential elements of dm kept continuously around the x-axis. So the summation is replaced with integration and m is replaced with dm. Instead of summing up over mass, we are integrating over differential mass. Okay, so please write down up to this step and tell me if there's any doubt. Okay, because next we are going to complete the calculation of this. Okay, so now this integral will become x plus x square by L. The denominator, again lambda naught comes outside. Okay. Same limits. So lambda naught cancels out. So we are left with x dx plus 1 by L into x squared dx from 0 to L, 0 to L, divided by dx plus 1 by L x dx. Okay. So now integration of x dx is x square by 2, so 0 to L. Then integration of x square is x cube by 3. Okay. Integration of dx is x, and once again integration of x dx is x square by 2. Okay, so next step this becomes L square by 2 plus 1 by L into L cube by 3 upon L plus 1 by L into L square by 2, which further becomes L square 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 upon L 1 plus R. Okay. 5 by 6 divided by 3 by 2. So that becomes 5L by 9. So as expected, you can see that the x coordinate of the center of mass is greater than L by 2. 5 by 9 is greater than 1 by 2. So the center of mass is slightly to the right of the geometrical center. Why? Because the mass distribution is not uniform. It's heavier on the right side. So the center of mass is more towards the right end compared to the left end. Okay. Now, while doing these type of integrations, you'll have to be careful about understanding which is the constant and which is the variable. Like in the above integrations, x is the variable, whereas L is a constant. Lambda naught is a constant. X is the variable of integration. Okay. So you have to take care and be careful not to get confused with these things. Just make a note of this. Okay, people. So hope this is clear. Now we'll conclude our session today here because according to the new this thing night curfew rules here, I have to shut down this office at 8 o'clock sharp. So we'll just close today's lecture a little bit early. We'll pick it up from this point in the next lecture, people. Okay. So hope this
So-
example is clear. Yes.
Sir, did you send the notes for that last lecture in the group?
Yeah, I have sent now, I think.
Yes, sir. I
Yes,
have
sir, you are saying
remember.
yes.
Yeah, just check out now. If you're not able to access the notes, just let me know. I'll send it again. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, people. All the best then. That's it for
Thank
today.
you, sir. Bye, sir.
Okay. Okay. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Good night.